It says the record is in progress.
Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome to a new session of Ubitalk. It has been a break since our last season. We have a lot of special guests coming on for this season. So now we have Ubi minders, people that are already in the engineering product teams. We also have some clients coming in, giving their idea of how to improve, people management, how to have best tech, people in tech, and everything that goes around this ecosystem. So today we have a really special guest. Our host for tonight is Alberto Silveira. If you haven't met him yet, he is VP of Engineering at LawnStarter, and he's also an author, published author. He has his own company that he's founded. It's Crossing the Equator, which is helping plenty of companies across the Americas to set up really successful distributed teams in software engineering. That's it, Alberto. And did I miss anything else? The floor is yours.
I couldn't have said that better. Thank you, Shayla.
Okay, then go ahead.
Ready to rock and roll? All right, cool. Well, good evening, good afternoon. I'm not sure if anyone is in a good morning, but good morning just in case if you have anyone on that part of the world. So I will be sharing my screen, and let me just okay, this one. And I'm assuming that you all can see today's topics. The journey to get your fleet to the North Star is thumbs up. Shayla, give me a thumbs up so I can see. Good, good, good. All right, so this is going to be today's topic. And if you know me, you know that I love boating, I love sailing, and I bring navigation and sailing metaphors and topics to the day-to-day while we're building teams and delivering product to our users. Today will be no different. The goal of this presentation is actually to take you the journey from hiring to actually delivering a product. So I will try to actually comprise that in a 30 minutes conversation. And I hope you enjoy the journey. Oops, how do I actually go back here? Yes. All right. So really, really happy to meet you all. Shayla gave like a very brief introduction. But I've been building software for well, let's not talk about the years, but near to 2 decades. So it's been quite some time, and over the years, crossing the equator from Brazil to US, lots of opportunities to learn, meet different people, different teams, different industries, and earlier this year I had like my first book published. This is actually a result of like inspiration of working with many of you that might be on the call, but it was an inspiration, and that I tried to put in words with the intent of sharing knowledge with the community and trying to bring some good, right? What's the point of actually learn and not share? So that's why I decided to actually shift a little bit my time and my focus, and that's the intent. I'm currently working as the head of engineering at LawnStarter, Austin-based, fully distributed organization, and before that, and I'm a lover of like being in the water. That's where I spend most of my time while I was writing the book, and like whenever I need to recharge and reconvene with or find myself, it's in the water. So, and I have a 7-year-old daughter, which I try to be very engaged, and being in the water, believe it or not, it's very good for both of us, and brings me peace and clarity to be sharing what I have to share with you today. If you're on LinkedIn and not connected with me, A Silveira, that's my LinkedIn, Twitter at asilveira81. If you're wondering, 81, yes, that's the year that I was born. And crossingtheequator.com, that's like my website where you can find articles and things of which I'm trying to publish there. Cool. So let's set the course, shall we? Should we get started? In other words, and here we are. So what is the plan, our planned route for today? Three main areas. First is the connection, the human connection with the North Star. And the metaphor of North Star, of course, is pretty self-explanatory, but is like the goal as the destination where we are trying to, that we are trying to achieve as teams, and the human connection behind. I'm gonna be talking about some definitions, why it matters, building trust and boosting collaboration. So the second part of like this presentation will actually cover how to get your fleet. And the metaphor here is like each team in an organization is a boat. A combination of boats is the fleet, and the importance of the rule of three and how actually getting all that together. I will bring the concept of like shared leadership. Yes, shared leadership, not one leader, but multiple leaders empowered and working together. And with that, I bring the concept of iron triangle. And then how you put the team together, from hiring to retention, to organizing the teams. And then last but not least, when we go through that journey, doesn't matter how great you are, how great your teams actually are, we're gonna have to realign and revisit and go through another lap, but doing that better. So I love saying baby steps and continuous improvement. Many times a day, many times, you know, it's the mindset that I want actually to share with you. We have one mission for tonight's session. Learn at least one, but learn one thing that we will bring it back to your teams. So you're investing the time to be here with me, with us tonight. So the goal is actually that you can actually take one thing, one practice that can make your day-to-day or make your team or make yourself better. That's the goal. And at the end, I'm gonna be sharing like just a link where you can actually share what you learned, and that's gonna be good feedback. I'm not a professional speaker. I'm just trying to get better. So any feedback that you may have to share, that would be lovely, and helping others in the future. Cool. And when I say that I'm not a professional speaker, like my day-to-day is building and leading teams. My second job and passion is to sharing knowledge. So that's what I meant. One interesting thing here is all the pictures and images in this presentation is taken from my own phone. This is not stock phone. It's like pictures that I take during like the sailing that I do for pleasure or competitions. These are like pictures to actually energize our conversation. This one, it was a very recent one in a competition in Croatia. So everything that we do, we have to have passion. So this is the passion for the voyage. And here we are. At the end of the day, business is very much like a regatta. If you're not familiar with regattas, that's okay. I will explain as we go. But all we need to do, all we need to understand from regattas is that boats with people with a collective, try to achieve a collective goal, right? Sounds that familiar with business? That is more like what we're gonna be covering here. Let me just pause here and get my speaker notes as we go. Let me just go here. All right. So in a business, we want teams to be building products and delivering that to end users, right? We want to do that in the most effective way. We want to take from point A to point B to point Z. Meaning, if we bring that to the nautical terms, captains do not sail blind, right? What does that mean? They make sure they know the coordinates, how to get from A to B to Z. They need to understand the milestones, the wind, the weather, the depth, right? I'm not sure if you all know, but like sailing boats, they require like a much deeper waters. So it can actually handle the boat format and the current. Believe it or not, when you're sailing, you only rely on the power of wind. So the currents can actually slow you down. Things that you learn when you're in the water and when you're actually practicing this sport. The captain needs to know their crew, right? And last but not least, they need to get everyone aligned with the North Star. So on the left side of this slide, you can see like the pink line where you have the departure, milestone 1, milestone 2, and the finish line here on the last spot. So if you actually consider like a to B to Z, that is not much different when we actually on the day-to-day building products. We have several milestones to actually achieve a company goal, right? One may call projects, I like to call projects initiatives, and initiatives are composed by multiple epics you may call, or whatever nomenclature you have in your teams. But it's important that you organize the work in a way that you can actually go milestone by milestone, and you can measure that, and you can actually realign as you achieve each one of the milestones. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about the metrics as we go throughout the presentation. But this is the goal, right? So as you can see, regattas and business and leading teams, there's like some things in familiar. Cool. So how you get like the destination in a regatta is like the final point, is the Z point in that metaphor or on that example. We need to have our teams. Either we are sailing or either we are like building strong teams. We need to have everyone understand what is the destination and what are like the milestones that we want to achieve throughout that destination. For that, we need vision, strategy, and autonomy. That is like in my perspective and my experience doing this, right? So if everyone understands like what is the final destinations, it will avoid so many things, including like taking shortcuts. If you go from A to Z directly, that may actually in the regatta, you're gonna probably actually have a penalty and you're out of competition, right? In the business, you may be delivering products that customers actually won't even use. So it's important that the team understands the vision, the milestones to get there. Each department needs to understand their role and that they feel part of it, right? What is the opposite of not having that in place? If you work maybe in some organization that have a more traditional mindset, that is literally top down, where you actually giving something to do, where you don't understand why you need to do, and you don't feel connected with that culture or mission or vision. As a result, it's most likely that you may get your boat in circles or even, sometimes capsize. Strategy. The strategy, it is what I like to call like a collaborative team engagement. Once you have like the established vision, you need to cascade that down, make people part of it, right? So in a regatta, the captain actually, when we establish the routes for the day, the captain will actually have the conversation with like the team members, trying to actually explain what is the plan and how each one actually is going to contribute in certain moments of like that racing, right? So same thing in business. If you don't have like that collaborative engagement, you're probably missing to get the best of every team member or every team that you have in your organization. So if you have like one meeting in a year trying to describe what the vision is, and you don't talk more about, don't have like the team engagement, you're probably missing that opportunity. Last but not least, autonomy. And I like to say that empowerment is the ultimate demonstration of trust, which is a very interesting feeling, because there's always like, is trust is an emotional or is a fact, right? It's kind of like, in my point of view, is like a balance of both, but it's an autonomous autonomous teams and leaders in particular. When you actually have that, you have the team deciding how they're gonna actually work. When a captain comes and say, hey, these are like the milestones, we're not actually saying that we need to follow exactly that line. If you actually seen like how a regatta goes, sometimes you don't even understand how the direction that the boats are taking. The same thing means that with autonomous teams, that leaders create the environment where teams can actually decide the best route. You have the guidelines, what I like to call the dotted lines, but teams will be able to do that. So if you can take something back from this, is like in your team, or like if you manage a team or multiple teams, or if you're a part of a team, you have to have the vision, the strategy, and the autonomy. If you don't have like a combination of these three, I would encourage you to actually engage in conversations with your team members and your leaders to see how you could achieve that. Cool. Let's. Did I move 2 slides back? Let me just go back here. I think there's a delay on Zoom, but once you have established culture and vision, strategy, and autonomy to decide your final destination, how about building a strong team, right? Behind great products, we have great people. And how do you put that people together? Okay, so health teams, that's one of my favorite quotes, is like health teams aren't building in a day, but they are building each day, right? Let me just move this Zoom here. Okay, so we're going to be covering relatively very quickly. These are topics that we could go deeper and deeper, but we're going to be quickly talking about hiring, organizing the team, and retention. First, hiring. We should be hiring people based on who they are, not if they can actually memorize a book and actually master how to do interviews, right? We should be hiring people to do the job and create that environment from day one. We should also be organizing the team in a way that they are set for success. Each team member has a specific role to play to support the mission. In a boat, is the same thing. The captain plays like a really important role, but every single person in the team, if they're not in harmony and synchronized, I bet you that you're gonna not be getting the efficiency and the results that you want. And retention. I'm a huge fan of mood and people's mood, and I like to say that mood is more powerful than intellect. Doesn't matter if you have like a very talented person in the team, if that person is not a team player. So in fact, that can actually move your boat to the opposite direction that you want. So starting with hiring, I separated for today's session a few different messages that I want you to bring home and to bring back to your teams. For those that don't know me, that heart with number one side is what I call the one team, one heart. I truly believe that people, when they are connected to like higher levels, they can operate better and deliver better results. The one team, one heart, it's a way of leadership. And this is the way that I like to lead my teams. So if you hear me saying like one team, one heart, be sure that it won't be the first and won't be the last time. I truly believe on that. But if you're hiring and use the one team, one heart mindset, first you need to diversify hiring. And you need to go beyond the 1 hour, 2 hours commuting radius. Doesn't matter if you're in Sao Paulo, Lisbon, New York, or any big city, right? Commuting is time that you're taking away, you're taking people away from doing something better in life, right? That doesn't mean by any means that you should be removing human connections, but you should be hiring people from different locations. That is something that has been happening for years and years and years. Yes, the pandemic accelerated us towards that direction, but open the net. If you're only hiring people near you, really reconsider that, because you may not be actually bringing people with different perspective, and that will prevent you to accelerate innovation in your organization. So open the net, do new partners, find people with different skills, different races, different skin color. Don't matter what you're doing in that regard, just open the net. And that's like one of the concepts that I like to talk about. It's this terminology, if you're fishing or if you ever fished, open the net, that's where that terms come from. The second is avoid decision by committee. It's incredible, and you'll be surprised how many organizations and teams I actually either consulted or were like being part of, where the leader wants to make everyone happy. Guess what? This will not happen. I guarantee you. Try to get like a couple of friends to actually get an agreement to do something cool, even though it's hard to get like everyone agree. Can you imagine like an organization where you have like a committee of people trying to decide if you need to hire a person or not? Here's what I would suggest you. Get the feedback from the people, but empower the hiring manager to make the decision. If that's not happening in your team, you're probably not in. Okay, if like a hiring manager decides to hire someone and makes a mistake, but you have to create that kind of environment. Hire people based on who they are, rather than what they can do. For anyone that actually interviewed for the big blue chip companies, you know that you have probably to memorize like a large book and actually go through an incredible, severe process on how to hire. That not only intimidates people in my perspective, but doesn't get one of the most important qualities when you actually bring someone for your team, which is honesty, transparency. You have to create the environment that people can be themselves. If people are not being themselves while they're being interviewed, you're probably hiring someone that you won't know once they actually join your team. So if you're actually the hiring manager, or if you're parting of like a team that's currently hiring people, make sure that you create an environment where those people can be themselves. Establish crystal clear scorecards. What is a scorecard? I hope you still hear me. I just got a message here.
It's fine. I think it switched your audio.
Yeah, I think my headphones just reconnected. So I will just keep going in respect of everyone's time. But if you're hiring, establish crystal clear scorecards. What does that mean? It's like expectations, right? If you don't have a clear expectations, what one's job is going to be in a measurable way, then step back and try to figure it out. Otherwise, you might be just actually talking with people in a subjective way, which is not make anyone's favor. Prepare for the interviews. It's in my experience giving consulting and talking with team and like helping teams to do interviews, a large percentage, impressive, more than 80%, the people that are interviewing, they are not prepared to be talking with the candidate. Guess what happens as a result? You keep interviewing people, and then it's always missing something, because there's not a scorecard where you can get your teams aligned. So get not only yourself, but get the people that are gonna.
Alberto, I'm sorry, you broke off again.
On these interviews, and if you cannot hear me, I'm seeing like a Zoom just trying to actually reconnect the AirPods. But do a fair play. If you're actually doing interviews where you're actually surprising candidates with like incredible, challenging algorithms, ask the question yourself if how would you like to receive that question? I do not like to surprise anyone. I like to actually ask engineers when I'm hiring them, bring a piece of code that you are proud of. Build a piece of code that you're not proud of, and then we can talk about it. Don't require people to actually decorating things that they will not use on their, memorizing things that they would have to do like on their day-to-day jobs. That is a waste of everyone's time, right? Do you want someone in your team that's going to be great doing the job that needs to be done, or someone that actually master doing interviews? I will leave that question for you to answer for yourself. Cool. Some higher guidelines very quickly. If you the Who interview book, if you never heard about the Who interview book, it's a good one. I like that book. Why? Because they focus on hiring people based on who they are. I like to have a 20 minutes icebreaker with every candidate that I can actually talk to understand if like there's like a cultural alignment. I have to have like a 2 hours Who conversation. I don't even like to call interview, honestly. I will not go through what the Who interview is, but I will encourage you to check thewhointerview.com. And after that, like just a technical interview where the person brings from home their own code where we talk, no surprise, full transparency. And then I have like what is they call like the focus conversations, which is like the opportunity that the other team members have to meet the candidates, and the candidates have the opportunity to meet the people that they're going to be working on. And then hiring manager collects all that information. I could actually give a talk only about these 4 items. And then, but for today's session, just this very straightforward. One message that you can take from this is, if you're making in this competitive market where everyone now is working from anywhere, do a self-analysis where your organization is and see the kind of candidate that you're actually going to hire. But I'm going to say you this. If someone is really good at interviewing and is really good technically, this person is probably building like rocket to the sky, to the space. And we are talking about SpaceX and like some really powerful companies and organizations that can actually afford doing that. If you're really good doing interviews and you're bad technically, you still have like a good job, like an enterprise that you can hide somewhere in the organization. I like to hire the people that they're really good technically, but they are not actually very practiced in interviews, right? And that is not that I like them, but on where we are, and I like to have like the self-awareness where my organization is. That is where like I believe I have a chance to hire really great talent, and I still have like some room for improvement, right? So I will leave that message with you as well. Cool. Switching from hiring to actually building the team, I will go again. This is like a presentation for an hour. I'm trying to comprise that in less time. But zoom out, bird's eye view. If you see like one team and a group of teams, it's like a regatta. You have multiple boats, each boat is a team, right? So look at this picture right here. And I will ask if you're not muted, if you could mute, that would be great. The important thing here is this. Here's the message that I would like you to take. Can you actually have and compete having one boat with one person? You can probably do a very poor job. That is the equivalent of having a team of one. A team of one, in definition, in English definition and any language definition, is not a team. You would be surprised how many times you're gonna be requested by, can we have like John Smith to be working on this special project? The answer is no, that's a team of one. A team of one is not a team. So, and that will cause you more problems than actually great results. A team should be formed, you should have a team formation. I like to call delivery teams. A delivery team is formed by people with different perspectives. Great, Alberto, I understand. A team should have the captain, should have like everyone that's gonna actually be specialized, maybe open the Genoa, open like different weather conditions. Yes, that is a delivery team. Building product softwares that include product design, engineers of different specialties. I'm security, front end, back end, and all those automation, DevOps, you name it, right? Same with like design. You have like design, but you have research, you have UI design, and like the user experience as a whole. Same with product management, project management, all that kind of stuff. So a delivery team needs to be formed with people with different disciplines and specialties. I will be talking about the iron triangle in the next slide, but a key message for you to take out, and I'm confident that you know that, maybe not as the Brooks Law, and if you Google Brooks Law, you're gonna find more details, but there is this human reaction that if when things are going poorly or not as expected or late, is to add more people to the team. Avoid that. Stick with like the plan. Have clear definition what is a team and what those definitions are. That will help you on the long run, right? Adding more people is not the same as making things better. I know you knew that, but repetition is key, as I like to say, and this is probably a message that you might find useful. Squads is an important concept. Many companies call that guilt. Spotify actually had like famous article on that. Here's what I will tell about squads. Squads is a mechanism to actually have your different teams collaborating. In a regatta, after every single day, we have these squads where captains, captains of each boat, they actually connect and talk about what they've learned on that day's race. And that primarily takes into consideration security conversations or safety conversations. What did we learn that it was either too dangerous or things that we can actually have each boat navigating towards the North Star in a very competitive spirit. Cool, moving on, retention. What matters? You hire the best talent, you cannot keep them. We humans, we are like very interesting creatures. I like to use that term. Why? Because we need to know where we came from, who we are, and where we are going. Career ladder. If you don't have like a career ladder which tells for each particular role what are the expectations, where people should do to go to the next level, here's like an opportunity. There's many career ladders out there and companies that have done that. I'm more than happy to share the ones that I actually been part of. But you need to set expectation, measure, and promote growth in your team. If you don't have that, if you're like an individual contributor and you don't know what you need to do to actually go to the next level, talk with your manager and bring like some ideas, because that will help with retention. Human connections. Alberto, how can we keep like human connections? Now we are all working distributed and like remote from home. I'm so bored working on the same. Separate conversations. We can talk about that offline. Feel free to connect with me. I can give you like ideas on how you can actually stay connected with your team, even though you're still like in different locations. You will only achieve retention if you stay connected as humans. We are not robots. Have you heard about the Gestalt concept? If not, copy and paste that, put on Google, is actually really nice. It's a fantastic concept. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So the team as a whole, it's much more important than any individual. Even if that person is the best individual in the team, is not better than the whole. Take this with you, because that may help you to make great decisions whatever you are. Many times, oh, but that person knows so much. But if you have the button when you're talking about that, think about the whole. That will help the morale and the retention in your team. Learn how to learn the mood of your team members and how the mood gets impacted with the decisions that you are making, right? If you change a process, how people are reacting to that. The mood of everyone can actually do that. There's several ways of doing that. If you're not familiar with teammood.com, it's a good software. I'm not affiliated to them. I just love to use their software, but check that out. And continuous learning. I like this quote, which says, train people enough that they can leave, but treat them enough so they don't want to. And this will help with retention. If people are not learning in your organization, on your team, they will get bored. And the moment that they get bored, they're gonna find like they will actually be open to like the new job, opportunity that knocks on their door. And for talent people, like each one of this call, and people in your team, they're getting several requests a day. I can guarantee you. LinkedIn has been the hottest probably tool in a long time. So promote learning in your team. There's several different mechanisms to do that. There's many different tools, but most importantly, create the time where people can learn. That is not a waste of time. That's an investment. Investing in your people is one of the best things that you can do. Cool. Iron triangle. I love that picture. This is a real picture. That's how crazy things go. These boats, sometimes they feel they're gonna capsize. That's how I feel actually leading projects and teams every day. Sometimes they feel that it's gonna capsize, but if you have like a good team, you can keep the balance and actually get momentum. Shared leadership, iron triangle. This is very straightforward. This is a concept that I got inspired on my last organization. And one of the many things, a captain cannot and will not be the only person making the decision. A smart captain, he or she asks and collaborate with team members to come up with better decisions. In product management, I like to call that the iron triangle, which is formed by product manager, engineer, and designers. How many times, especially like in the traditional agile, we have the product owner. The product owner knows everything. The product owner makes the decision. The product owner knows everything. In my perspective, that actually is not the most effective ways of building and delivering experience and value to organizations. If you have your teams that are not having product design and engineering building products, I would suggest that you think, and I have like an entire chapter in my book that talks about this, but different perspectives brings the right balance. That's when your boat doesn't capsize. The dynamic tension of these three different perspectives, it is a positive thing. Oh, the designer is going to be thinking about accessibility. The product is going to be about the time to market. The engineer is going to be thinking about how can we refactor this to make it quicker and faster. and cheaper in AWS, I don't know. That conversation and having this shared leadership, in my experience, in my practical experience, this is what's going to bring more balanced teams and decisions and product to your organization. And honestly, this is like what fosters innovation, creativity, and gonna give better outcomes. Iron triangle. It is a term that I like to use several times when I'm in planning meetings, and it is a very powerful concept. There's more triangles that we will not be covering in today's presentations. That's the bow tie, which you bring marketing, sales, or even you bring analytics as part of like your triangles or combination of triangles. That could be like an entire conversation, but I just wanted to leave you the taste of like iron triangle is. Shayla, how are you doing on time? Just keep me honest here.
Yeah, we're 6:45 Brazilian time, so 15 minutes left.
So I don't have to do, how much time I have?
15 minutes, but if we can do a little less time, that's better, because then we can open for some questions as well.
Noted.
I'm sorry.
This
I
is
know this is...
No, this is teamwork right there. So like, just keep honest and on time. All right, so streamlined collaboration. What does that mean? Especially now in the world that we are all working in from different locations away from the centralized office. Things that I would like you to take a note today is like things that you should do less. You should be reducing your calendar fragmentation, not only yours, but in your team. And you should be reducing context switch. Do you all remember what happened when like teams that were not prepared to go to work from home? What happened? Literally, that like organizations that would open Zoom in the morning and would leave open Zoom the entire day for their teams. Command and control. I'm a manager that I need to see people. If I don't see people like 100% of my time, I don't believe that they are doing work. This is not a joke. This actually happened, and maybe still happening in some organizations. But if I made you, give you like some smile, it's because you know exactly what I'm talking about. So reduce context switch in your teams and reduce calendar fragmentation. What you should do more? Focus on what needs to be delivered and concentration, and that will increase your productivity. You should actually, streamlined collaboration will help you to do that. All right, the 3 pillars of streamlined collaborations is great documentation, meetings, and communications. For those that actually work with me or worked with me in the past, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If it's not written down somewhere where is a single source of truth and accessible for everyone, you're losing an opportunity to actually streamline your collaboration, right? Team has to repeat themselves to actually explain how something actually works. Writing things down and socializing that and empowering people to actually make change, it's key for like high performance teams. If you're making decisions and not writing down, that is that's an opportunity that you have to improve. Meetings. Synchronous meetings should happen. I will talk about the async, but it must be effective. And then you may be asking, okay, Alberto, I understand. What being effective actually means? I will leave a simple one. Every time that you join a meeting, count how many people you have in that meeting. You ask if everyone should be on that meeting, and then you calculate the price of that meeting. And then you actually try to figure out the, I'm sorry about my dog here. Just 1 second, sorry, really sorry about that. Next time, take the dog out of your door. Cool, but documentation is one. Meetings, you just try to calculate the price of meetings, and do not schedule meetings for the sake of scheduling that. Meaning, if you have like a recurring meeting that you don't have a clear agenda for the next session, that's a good candidate to actually be canceled. If that you don't want the meeting, talk with the person that owned the meeting. And that brings the point that in my teams, I like to have all the team meetings are in shared calendars and everyone is empowered to make changes to those invites. Empower your team, trust them. They will surprise in a positive way. Last but not least, communication, which I will cover in the next slide. And the communication of your team has to have like an agreement with the entire team. Otherwise, you're going to be creating more synchronous meeting to actually get alignment. So three things here that I would say. Try to organize the time of every person in your team in 3 buckets: catch up time, focus time, collaboration time. Catch up time is like the work that needs to happen no matter what. It's like people checking their messages. It's one-on-one checking emails and that kind of stuff. I like to have my catch-up time very early in the morning so I can actually prepare for my day. Collaboration time is the time where the team as a group collaborates, right? And last but not least, focus time. Engineers, they love to have that focus time. So whenever they are actually debugging the code, whatever they are working on that, on some critical problems, they don't like to be interrupted, right? Why? Context switch, that's expensive. So if you don't have these 3 elements in your team's calendar, try to have like an agreement, try to work with them so you can have like an agreement to that. Now, if I ask you, what is the opposite of not having streamlined communication? It's AKA chaos, because now people need to be like connected longer hours because everyone is expected to be online. More sync meetings are going to happen. Now you have to have the meeting to plan the meeting to actually get people aligned. So keep these 3 concepts in mind and organize your calendar, your team calendars based on that. So unfortunately, we are running out of the time. This is like a picture that I love to actually share. Even if you have different time zones, try to have like a picture that represents what your team is gonna get better, get aligned on what catch up, collaboration, focus time. This way, you can actually have that central part for meetings, plannings, retros, and all ceremonies that you may actually want to have in the team. All right, cool. I'm gonna go very quickly here, and Shayla, probably we're gonna have more than happy to do like another Ubitalk. But 4 metric principles, just it has to be automatically generated. It should be easily referenced, and it should come up with multiple perspectives, and nothing is final and settled in stone, so it should be continuous improvement. So 3 metrics that I would just say this: if you're still measuring like storing points and burnout completely in traditional agile, I challenge you that there's a better way to measure performance of your teams. There's what we call like the Dora Metrics, which comes from the DevOps community. Measure outcomes, not outputs, right? So deployment frequency, mean time to recover, availability of your software, it comes from the Dora Metrics, D-O-R-A, in case you cannot understand my broken accent here. But these are metrics that you would like to consider. I will show you this. Every metric should have a counterbalance metric, in my opinion and my experience. So these are some examples of counterbalance metrics. Shayla, if you have like a way of sharing these slides with the team, with every participant, you can actually take a look at later. But all these metrics are counterbalanced from like the key 3 metrics from the previous slide: deployment frequency, uptime, and the time to recover for issues. And all I would actually refer here is if you're not measuring the mood of your team, it's something that you want to consider, as I mentioned earlier. All these other metrics here, I wanted just to share like an example for like, especially for like engineers and engineering managers on the call. These are like probably a good set for you to get started or consider comparing the metrics that you have. So I will wrap up here so we have like some times for questions, but never underestimate what a team with a purpose can achieve. I will have to skip a few slides, which is about like continuous improvement. I probably should have cut some slides instead of like an hour, made like in 35 minutes. But do you remember what I asked you on the beginning of like this conversation? It was to learn one thing that you could bring back to your teams. So if you did learn one thing, Shayla, if you could share like the link for the survey. I have like 3 easy questions, will take you like less than a couple of seconds to answer those. I would appreciate your feedback. As I said, not a professional speaker, I'm just head of engineer, part of the team, trying to share my lessons learned with the community. And so we all can do better. So your feedback will help me to get better. I can actually give one that I had to rush things. I wish I could actually had a little bit more time, but baby steps and continuous improvement. Shayla, with you.
Yeah, I've shared the link here on our chat. So anybody that wants to fill in and give their opinion, it's always really, really welcome. I also shared an email in case anybody wants to have these, some of these slides, I can share them with them later. Alberto, I really, really appreciate you bringing all these insights for us. I know that you have, several years of experience. You have tons and tons of chapters all summarized in a very short amount of time, but I'm confident that this was really helpful for everyone. So before we move on, anyone has any questions that they would like to make, Alberto? There's a really good opportunity.
Yeah, I have one.
Hey, Ricardo. Yes, please.
First, congratulations to our great presentation. It was very insightful. I'd like to know how you deal in the past with bad performance. I know that even after we do everything, sometimes the performance is not so good. How you did in the past to solve bad performance of your team members?
Very good. And that's the part that I had to rush in the presentation. And apologies for that, Ricardo. Here's what I would say. There's not a single answer. There's not a magic metric that I would tell you that this is what's going to make your team successful, right? So what I try to convey on my teams is to have what I call the delivery team metrics and the individual metrics and the whole department metrics, right? So, and all these metrics, they cascade up. So for instance, if you are leading engineering teams and you're like an individual contributor, you're gonna actually measure what is the frequency of an engineering pushing code, right? You don't want to actually measure like in lines of code that's proven that's not a effective way, right? But you want to make how frequently the code of like that engineering is being pushed, right? As an example, or PR throughput or whatever individual metric you want to actually compile. As a result of that, Ricardo, other than being aligned with CI/CD of like small frequent commits and all that kind of stuff, that person will be contributing with the team metrics, because doesn't matter if you actually have like those individual metrics if you don't have like the team metrics. Some examples of team metrics that I like to use, it's cycle time. So you have like your coding metrics, and then you have like your process metrics. Cycle time is like how long does it take from point A to point B, and I talked about that in the initial of the conversation, is A to B to Z. Is like we want to make sure that the team is moving smoothly from those points. Cycle time is a metric that I personally use heavily on the teams, and you can measure that individually and as a team, right? You are making sure that the processes between those milestones are streamlined. You can find bottlenecks in QA, bottlenecks in the release process as the cycle time is spiking in some areas. And another metric is just to actually go from individual to team to department. The deployment frequency is one of like my favorite metrics. It came, there's like a research over 6 years. That's where the Dora came, Ricardo. And the deployment frequency measures the maturity of product engineering teams to be delivering value to users. So the more frequent the teams can actually deliver that product to the users, the more mature your teams are, the more mature your processes and tools are. So I would recommend, if you and anyone, one of like my favorite books where I actually learn and actually apply these over the years is from the author Jess Humble, the Accelerate book. It's called like Accelerate from Jess Humble. It explains a lot of like these measurements to measure performance. And to wrap up and answer this question, hopefully I answered, more than happy to chat offline, Ricardo, is this: speed is not the only thing that you should be measuring. The business will always put faster, 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 faster. But that's not necessarily better. So keep that in mind. And that's why I like to measure technical, measure the product and measure like NPS and all that kind of stuff. But I also like to measure the morale of the team with the team mood. That was a long answer. There's a lot to talk about measuring performance. Hopefully I gave you like some insights to look into it.
Thank you.
I just jumping in. Some people are having trouble with the form. I think there was something wrong with the restrictions, but it's good to go now. I think anyone that can provide Alberto feedback, that would be really valuable. Alberto, I actually have a question here. Some people are messaging me here on the chat as well. Can you list the partners, the tools that you like to use along the process? Both, building team and then monitoring their performance as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There are like lots of things out there, especially now after COVID. More teams working distributed ways, and like these tools have been all over the place. The main tools, talking about tools, as I mentioned earlier, like to measure like the team morale, I like the teammood.com. It's a French company which can provide analytics on team morale. If you don't want to actually do that, there's like plugins in Slack, if you're using Slack, that can do that. Poly, it's can achieve similar results. Some analytics that can actually help you with like team morale. To Ricardo's question, and going back to team metrics, there's a few products out there that do the same thing. I like codeclimate.com. You have to be careful if you're actually introducing that to your team, because you may be perceived as micromanaging. So you have to really understand the metrics and how you want to use them. Having no metrics is equally bad as having metrics without a purpose to improve. Every metric that you establish in your team, you have to have clarity on what to look at and how to get people better, and people and teams better. So Code Climate, Team Mood, Poly, what other tools? There's no magic as far as like documentation. We use Confluence. I like Confluence. You can use whatever other tool where you can write, as long as you keep the information organized in a way that you have like a single source of truth. It's accessible to everyone, and the team is empowered to change whenever there's an opportunity to improve. What all other tools? If you're using Teams, Slack, WhatsApp, there's so many. Here's the most important thing for you to streamline your communication. Define where people need to go to find information where they need. If you're randomly creating channels in Slack without any structure, that's gonna become a nightmare. If you're not archiving channels and there's like things going on, that is gonna bring chaos. And then you know what you're gonna need next? A synchronous meeting to get people aligned. So write down what is the structure with prefix, suffixes, and so people know where to go to find the information that they need. And I personally like to create a process to define processes. So people need to know that they are empowered to actually be part of like providing new ways of doing things. Out of that, you don't need tools. You need process to actually get those aligned. There's many other tools that I could be talking. There's one last one that I'm gonna leave in here for like a team collaboration. It's called like Toucan, as like the animal, Toucan events. Take a look at that one. That actually brings the physical environment of, you know, like back in the day where you would go to the cafeteria and you actually connect with people. This software tried to bring that to the virtual world. It's pretty cool. Take a look and give it a try. It's pretty special.
Okay, and I have another one here. I'm not sure if anybody else wants to go first. Otherwise, I'll have another one here. Okay, I think people are shy. I have one here. What are the most common mistakes that leaders make when they're trying to find this North Star? And yeah. I think you can also say like how they pass that forward as well, not just setting it, but also forwarding that to the team.
That's a very good question. I'm gonna actually just give this answer based on my own experience. I think rushing things. Everyone and the world that we live, we don't even understand what needs to be done, and we want to know when that's going to be done. That leads to terrible mistakes. Every single organization that I've been working for the past 2 decades, you have like some shape or form of like this challenge. So as a leader, my job is actually to always to get the best of every person, but to try to tell like the exec team, the board, the leadership, that we need to understand what we want, where we want to get, then we can talk how we're going to be getting there. So then we can actually come up with like the plan and the cost. But it's not an easy task. It requires a structure, it requires like a culture, it requires like strong leaders and empowered people to be able to achieve that level of maturity. I love working for startups. Why? I mean, there's many reasons, but one of those reasons is like the impact that you can have on the users and the organization. But in my experience, rush it's probably on the top 3, I would say the #1 reasons where like companies fail and make mistakes, because that really leads to frustrations, that leads to miscommunication, and at the end of the day, you will not get the product that your customer is gonna love. Hopefully I answered the question. If not, I'm more than happy to continue the conversation offline as well.
I didn't get any complaints here, so I think that's a good sign.
It's whoever asked that question, it's a very, very, very good question. But thanks for asking that.
Anyone else? Otherwise, I think we can wrap up. Alberto, thank you very much. I'm gonna share tomorrow the links again, in case anybody wants to follow, Alberto. We have the events on LinkedIn. We're carrying these events. Usually they happen every fortnight or so. So we're always bringing new people. We're trying to bring other clients in as well to talk and bring a more strategic look on how to manage the teams, how to improve the development life cycle, and so on. And if you guys have any suggestions of topics you'd like us to cover, just let us know. You can use that email that we made on the chat, ubiminds@ubiminds.com, and we're happy to accommodate and bring in new guests as well. Alberto, thank you again.
Can I interrupt
thank you.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Before we say goodbye, I would like to ask you, Alberto, with respect to not making decisions by committee and then measuring team mood, I'd like to know when you implement a change and you see team mood take a hit, how do you navigate that change without allowing that dip in mood to sway you to just revert the change?
Very good question, Tommy. I think there's one piece of like the presentation that I had to rush, and apologies again for that, but it's the mindset of continuous improvement, right? We're humans, and accepting the fact that our mood will be impacted in the decisions and acknowledging that as a team, I think is the first step, right? Creating the environment of like psychological safety where people will report that they will not be quote unquote punished or blamed for sharing their thoughts. It's what I consider like a very first good step. If you can acknowledge as a team, as an individual, as a team, it means that you can talk about that. So if I make a decision, first, I mean, with the idea of like iron triangle and shared leadership, it should not be a surprise for the team. But you know, there's always an opportunity to improve the communication. But when those decisions happens and the mood and the morale of the team takes a hit, and you can talk about that, it is like the step that you need to actually revert, to improve, and to get like a follow-up change to actually make that better. So, as any other relationship, first step is to acknowledge. Second step is actually to talk about it and come up with actions that will improve. Just to wrap up, like hopefully a good answer for your question, Tommy, I would say this. I like to empower and encourage people to not only say that they don't like, but tell me what you think that's good. If you don't like this decision, because many times in the real world, you have to make decisions. And sometimes there's no perfect decision. But can we agree where our North Star is? Yes. Can we agree that this is like it's the better route for us to achieve there? Yes. Yes, my mood is not like in the most green state, but once there's that conversation, you can actually move your boat more efficiently towards the direction that you want. So, but that's how I like to do, Tommy. I'm not saying this is the only way, or like, but that's how I like to think and lead my teams.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And actually, I think you just made another good plug for the book Accelerate, where they talk about, you know, using Western organizational culture to measure your culture. And you just spoke toward I forget the term, generative culture that they have there that encourages that involvement and ability to speak freely and help to drive change. So thank you.
No, very welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for asking. Anyone else? Cool. Shayla, huge thanks for inviting me and give me the opportunity to actually meet the UbiMinds community. And I will be giving this talk on the Agile DevOps conference in Orlando next month, and on the Agile conference in Montreal. So I appreciate the feedback and I appreciate the patience with me, trying to get things organized. But hopefully we achieved the mission for the day, which was to learn at least one thing that you can bring it back. And thank you, Shayla. Thank you, UbiMinds. Thank you, everyone. And see you around.
Likewise. Thank you. Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everybody. Hope you have a really good end of the week. Bye.